Ave Satanis. Welcome to the Sanctuary Satanica. I am the Guardian. My name is Angela. Welcome. So, I've had a few things on my mind, and I've had a few people ask me about a few different terms, and I thought it could be fun to explore these terms today. This video will not be able to do this discussion a full justice. I went over a great many more things in a video I posted to Patreon that I initially was going to edit into this video, but I realized like that would take me a long time, and instead I thought I would just redo it and simplify it and keep things sort of succinct here. Let's talk about the term devil worshipper. Let's talk briefly about that. Let's talk about devil worship versus devilry versus theistic Satanism. So I'm sure everyone here is aware theistic Satanism is still Satanism. It uses a lot of the same philosophy that LaVeyan Satanism put forth. It's just viewing Satan as an actual deity and God. And there's many varieties of theistic Satanism. A couple different kinds of theistic Satanism would be traditional / revival Satanism, religious Satanism, spiritual Satanism, esoteric, anti-cosmic Satanism, Satanism, which is an offshoot of Satanism. You have a variety of different paths just under the umbrella of theistic Satanist, right? And then you have devilry. I went over it on the Patreon video, but I'm going to just insert like a little piece from me answering a comment on Instagram here because I feel like I tackle it a little more succinctly there, and I don't want to repeat myself. Repeating myself is driving me nuts. So I'll insert it here.
Like, I saw your comment and I was like, yes, because I also use both terms. And my introduction to diabolism was through a teacher I'll refer to, I only know as Damiano, and he had a podcast a long time ago and a YouTube channel a long time ago. Frankly, he got really sick of the internet and he just fucking cut it all and cut it off. And I respect his decision because, like, frankly, no one deserves his gnosis. His stuff is really raw and beautiful. But I learned it from him, and it wasn't about, diabolism was not about having like a specific religious practice as much as a trajectory on the left-hand path that is above all prioritizing one's own black flame and one's own ascension, so to speak. And so, like, this meant being very strict with cutting out Abrahamic influence in every way. So much so that some sigils that I wear, consistently would be things that Damiano would reject.
But diabolism, like, functionally is, like, in my community, is an umbrella term. Lately, I've been seeing it conflated with reverse Christianity. We'll get to that when we get to the devil worship section. It is not synonymous with diabolism or devil worship. Reverse Christianity is an entirely different thing. We'll get to that. Diabolism includes quite a great many things. I would say it includes devil worship, but it's not limited to devil worship. Diabolism includes Satanism, but it's not limited to Satanism. It's not limited to Luciferianism. It's not limited to demonolatry. It's not limited to the left-hand path. It's not limited. Like, diabolism, to me, is a trajectory, a motion, a movement that aligns with the left-hand path, in large part, that moves one away from the falsehoods of the Abrahamic thought, and Abrahamic programming. What Damiano would call the Abrahamic parasite. So, like, when I'm saying I'm a diabolist, I'm including myself as not only a theistic Satanist, as a devotee of Satan, I'm also a devotee of Lilith. I'm also a devotee of the devas that I work with in my Aramanic yoga. I am also including the Eshu and Pombagira that have aided me. Even my experiences as a pagan, I include under, like, this identity as a diabolist. I feel like it really encompasses sort of what my path and the many paths I've walked before were all sort of leading to and leading me to and bringing me into, so that's what I'm referring to when I say I'm a diabolist. But in a more specific sense, I mean that I am someone who prioritizes my ascension above all else, and my unification with my deities above all else, and that I am not going to be complicit with the Abrahamic influences around me. I am not going to be okay with someone saying some shit like, even as a joke, like so and so needs Jesus. I'm not into that. I don't fucking play with memes that honor that whole thing at all. I don't engage with people who are Jesus apologists. I don't. I have personal reasons for that. I have religious reasons for that, and I have political reasons for that. But as a diabolist, I'm positioning myself against that. I don't excuse that, and I don't allow it in my space. Devil worship is something that I'm aligning myself with uh, for very kind of specific reasons, but also because, like, I don't see the point in avoiding the term. I don't see the point in trying to say I'm not a devil worshiper. And I find that people say this when they conflate devil worship with so-called reverse Christianity, which is so rare, by the way. Like it's so rare to find anyone who actually does like reverse Christianity or anything I would call reverse Christianity. Usually these people are calling themselves shit like Christian Satanists or Muslim Satanists or Islamic Satanism or whatever. You'll see it. I have seen one reverse Christian appropriate the term diabolist. I know that they're not the only one to do so, but I have seen that. That made me want to puke. That's not true. Please don't keep echoing that.
I'm just gonna cut in, and I had a whole thought about inverted Jewish mysticism that I would love to talk about because that's actually different from all this. I want to instead talk about the fact that most of the time when I'm encountering, reverse Christian stuff or reverse, you know, Islam stuff, 9 times out of 10, it's just a fetish. Like it's just someone who wants to like jerk off on a Bible or something, and like it's really, or they have like a thing for nuns. You know, weirdly enough, I've seen more people lean in the Islamic direction with it lately. Very weird. It is pretty much just a fetish, and it has almost nothing to do with Satan. Like, actually, nothing. It has everything to do with the person's personal, like, sexual issues around religion, which, to each their own, but I think some people should probably just talk to a fucking therapist about it, not bother Satan about it.
Are reverse Christians diabolists? Depends on your definition of devilry, but I would say no, because they're not focused on the devil at all. They're not. They're focused on pissing off daddy. So, no. Devil worshippers, on the other hand, are focused on a deity, which usually an outside group deems a devil. So, in the case of theistic Satanists, that deity would be, Satan, sometimes Iblis. Uh, I would say worship of Lilith is going to categorize someone as a devil worshiper, even if they see Lilith as a goddess. Um, Actually, any goddess worshiper is going to be categorized as a devil worshiper by the outside. It's just, that's what the patriarchy will do. Um, Self-identifying as a devil worshiper, deliberately saying like I'm a diabolator, which no one says that they're a diabolator, and no one uses the term diabolatry because it's a mouthful. But if someone says I'm a devil worshiper, right, there is a deliberate statement in that. As I think I've said on Instagram, there's a deliberate conscious choice behind that. It is almost political, the way that it is so directly opposed to what other people want you to say. And this is something that like bugs me when like Satanists of any kind denounce devil worship. Like it kind of reminds me of like trans people denouncing non-binary people or gay people denouncing bisexuals. It just sort of sounds weird to me. Like it's like you think this is going to help you, but it's not, you know. And and to the people who hate us, like we're all the same. So I don't know why you're doing making this distinction. Now I understand the distinction between people who are reverse Christian and people who honor Satan. That's an important distinction. I'm not knocking that. I do think it's shitty conflating devil worship with reverse Christianity because that's just not fair. People who work with devas, people who work with Malaktaus, people who work with Lilith, people who work with Lucifer, people who work with any of the goetic demons in a context outside of Solomonic magic, in a context where they actually have a relationship with the spirit and respect for the spirit, are all technically devil worshippers. You know, technically someone who devotes to Hecate could be considered a devil worshipper because Hecate has been seen as a devil by people who don't like her, you know. Even the word devil comes from the word deva. So like I find that devil worship is uniquely equipped to reveal where Abrahamic religions are actually wrong. And nowhere is that more true than looking at the Yazidi religion. Now, the Yazidi tradition is a closed tradition. It is an insular indigenous community, but the Kitab al-Jawa has been made public, and to deny its influence on modern theistic Satanism would be crazy. It is a text that does speak to me largely, and I have even quoted it on my website before. I really do enjoy that text, and Malek Taus is a joy to be around. Um, when you read through the cultural context of the Yazidis, it gets even more fascinating about where the names Lucifer, Azazel, and Beelzebub actually come from, as opposed to what Abrahamic sources have taught us they come from. And I learned that some phrases like some of these names came from like Canaanite, religions that were then bastardized. I did not know that some almost completely unaltered versions of these names are found in Yazidi tradition. And thus the Yazidis are called devil worshippers, when ironically, a lot of the practices that Yazidis engage in and invented, Islam and Christianity appropriated. And I'll put the book up here if people are interested in learning more, because it's absolutely fascinating. Yazidis are a controversial group of people to study anyway, and of course, they are constantly being projected on by outside sources because they are an indigenous, insular, closed group of people who are very distrustful of the outside and have their own customs and cultures and traditions that they do not share with outsiders, obviously. So the study of them is, out there, but it is still limited to what the Yazidi have allowed to be studied about them. They get called devil worshippers constantly. They get called devil worshippers constantly. So when I'm aligning myself with devil worship, it's because A, I understand that I'm going to be called that anyway as a theistic Satanist. Like that's unavoidable. And B, I was called that before I was a theistic Satanist. So it was also unavoidable. And C, that's what I'm doing. I don't see worshiping the devil as a bad thing. And in fact, I find that devil worship, but I find the veneration of the very thing that you're taught to fear, the very thing that you're taught to hate, the very thing that you're taught is something you should avoid or deny the existence of, or what have you. I denied the existence of Satan for a long, 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 long time. And I realize now that like Satan just didn't reveal himself to me because at the time I was not worthy to see him, and I was not willing to see him, and I was pushing him into shadow, and I was denying him. If you open your heart to him, he's there. Like he's there. He's always been there. Is Satan always how he's been referred to? No. There's so many things that Satan can teach through the concept of being the devil, right? That he cannot teach if you whitewash him and you make him out to be, you know, your angel anime boyfriend, the way people shape Lucifer into. It's really difficult to explain because the English language is so limiting. But I find that devil worship is a way to deliberately engage with not only one's personal shadow, but to engage with the larger cultural shadow, ancestral shadow, cosmic shadow of the universe. Because that's truly what the devil and Satan are. That's what the demons truly are at the end of the day. Um, but especially Hashatan, especially, the devil is an embodiment of everything that people deny. It comes through every time people say, like, Satan's not a name, and then they go on to say Lucifer, and they have no idea what the fuck that is. They have no idea what the fuck that is. And that's because they keep referring to Abrahamic sources. And they'll, like, I've questioned someone about this, and they couldn't fathom my question. That's going to be a different discussion, talking about Lucifer. Ultimately, the people committed to misunderstanding me are going to be committed to misunderstanding me, and they're not going to learn anything from this. But I hope that, like, me sharing this allows some other people in the, you know diabolism diaspora, let's say, uh, to be able to articulate their positions a little better, just even through contrast with mine, even just with how they understand them. And you're free to share in the comments. Obviously, these specific labels really mean nothing to people outside of our niches, like, because they just hear it all as the same thing. But if we're gonna get really specific, I just thought I would share. Yeah, when I say I'm a Satanist, I'm aligning with, a philosophical position and a sort of like legacy of religious rebellion. And when I align myself with diabolism, I am saying that I'm aligning with myself and my inner devil and my outer devil more than I'll like over the default option. It goes with hand in hand with my left hand path stuff. I am not falling into the default option. I am deliberately choosing a different path that is going to be seen as wrong by most people. And that's what I'm saying when I'm a diabolist. So that's why it includes many, many things. And then as a devil worshiper, I am saying, yeah, the thing that you wanted to use against me actually, like, is something that I have thought about. It's actually something I've thought about very deeply, and I actually don't have a problem with. I am happy to say that I worship the devil. That brings me joy. I've never been so happy to worship anything. Um, and, like, I love many deities. Don't get me wrong. I'm still a polytheist. I still love many deities. I've worshipped many deities before Satan. Um, but I was always sort of uncomfortable with the word worship then. I was always sort of like avoiding it and saying I just work with the deities or whatever the fuck. But, like, to truly worship and to say that, like, you venerate and honor and revere, a deity, yes, I worship Satan. I get quite zealous about it sometimes. I really, really love worshiping the devil. Do I see the devil and Satan as always the same thing? No, but it's sort of silly to try to chop up, to always separate Satan from everything. People are always so, like, afraid to include Satan, when we talk about Lucifer, when we talk about the devil, when we talk about literally any demon or anything. Like, people are so afraid to include Satan that they're very quick to pull out the thought terminating cliche, Satan's a title. But actually, Shaitan is the title. Satan, the Anglicanized Satan, is a name, actually. It is a name. It's capitalized and everything, and it refers to one character. It is a name. And that's an example of how symbols change things evolve, things are changed from book to book, and going to the oldest thing is not always the answer to what the thing currently is. It just says what it used to be. You know what? When I actually read through it, it's very underwhelming, and like people are adding in all sorts of things that are not in these texts, like when they talk about it. I learned that when I finally read the story. I think it's like, what's it called? Something with Tobias. It's about Asmodeus, or people say it's about Asmodeus, but actually Asmodeus is in it for like one sentence. like, like he's in it for one sentence, and the story largely, although it includes him, does not real. It's not about Asmodeus and Sarah. It's barely about Sarah, and people use this as like a source on Asmodeus. It's a it's a bad source, okay? Like it's not a good source. Like it's, yeah, you got, I guess you should include it. It's a well-known one, but it's not the end all be all. It's not where Asmodeus comes from. It's not like anything substantial really that's useful to anyone working with him today. It's an example of Abrahamic propaganda, like everything else that these books are. Solomonic books are a whole different bag, and I think it's really funny that no one takes into account that Aleister Crowley translated the Ars Goetia. Like Aleister Crowley translated the Lesser Key, and we're just supposed to take all that shit as literal. Aleister Crowley, Aleister Crowley, Aleister Crowley. You know, the guy who like wrote satirical shit in a German newspaper. That Aleister Crowley? That guy that was always fucking cracking jokes and perverted little poems and stuff? That Aleister Crowley? Listen, I'm not saying Aleister Crowley can't be serious. I am studying a variety of thelemic texts right now, but like you can't like consume anything translated by Aleister Crowley and not consider for just a second that his sense of humor, which is all over the common understanding of the Lesser Key of Solomon. So I don't take that shit literally either. It's kind of weird how people take grimoires like a Bible, like how Christians take the Bible. I mean, you don't have to be Christian to be colonized by Christianity. You really don't. I think a lot of the stigma around devil worship sort of protects a lot of these practices. And I'm not saying to make devil worship into something fluffy and light and digestible. I think devil worship, diabolatry, diabolism, and yes, even Satanism, and especially theistic Satanism, shouldn't be digestible to the general public. I think it should be adversarial to people's comfort and people's like conventional ideas of what religion is. I think to comply with that in advance is sort of to give up. It can be difficult speaking to people who are, you know, committed to misunderstanding this. But to everyone watching, I appreciate you watching, whether you understood it or not, whether you agree with me or not. I especially appreciate, you know, the people in my diaspora, my infernal people, my diabolist people, my theistic Satanists, Luciferians, demonolators, etc., 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 Setians, Thirsa True practitioners, Arimonic practitioners. I don't even know all the different terms y'all use for yourselves, but all of y'all, like, I appreciate, you know, the understanding of nuance that this community has, the space this community makes for, and again, like, community is the wrong word, but you know what I mean, the space this network of all of us makes for such diversity and stuff just so beyond what people can find in a Google search, and I think that's great. When people keep going like, I'm not a devil worshiper, I'm not a devil worshiper, I'm not a devil worshiper. Meanwhile, you know, their entire house is covered in Baphomet and pentagrams and inverted crucifixes, and have quotes from the devil in Paradise Lost like tattooed on their body, and they listen to music that centers the devil, and they, you know, they surround themselves with this symbol, right? Like, okay, well, you're worshiping that symbol. It doesn't matter if you see the devil as a god or not. In fact, like saying he's a devil implies that he's been stripped of godhood in some way, because it's historically what happens to gods that get colonized by other gods, right? They get stripped of their godhood and called the devil. and and so, if you align yourself with the symbol of Satan in such a way that you are basically worshiping that symbol, then, well, you're a Satan worshiper, girly pop.